Hi, I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Pig Health Today, and with me is Carles Vilalta. He is a veterinarian with the Vet Population Medicine Department at the University of Minnesota. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
You had the privilege of working with Bob Morrison.
Yes, I did, and it was an amazing privilege, and I had lots of fun with him learning.
I bet you did, and it was a very important project too, because Bob had started the swine health monitoring program, and I understand that you're very active with that.
Yeah, I'm currently part of the team. This is an amazing team that we are following Bob's instructions of every week, looking at the data, digging into the data, and trying to get value of it, so we can bring that value back to the producer. And this is what we're trying to do.
What exactly are you doing to monitor PRRS?
So we have a guideline that is described in the ASB, and different companies are trying to follow that. They have their own different ways of approaching that, but then we are translating that into a more general way of understanding that, so everybody can understand what the other is doing. And these producers and vets, they are sending the data weekly, and then we incorporate that into our database. And then from there, we look at the different trends. We create the report, the weekly report, on Fridays. So this is another thing that Bob wanted to do, like no matter what, the report goes out. So every week we are putting a lot of effort in doing that report, no matter if we have meetings or we attend conferences. So we're putting out the report. So this is one piece of the project.
Well, now, other than that, Bob said so, it needed to get out every week. Why is that so important to the industry? I mean, we know that PRRS is a huge problem, but why is it so important to monitor its prevalence on a weekly basis?
Well, I think we're getting, it's kind of a date or a marriage. We're getting to know each other, the whole industry, so it's important that we monitor those incidents, so then we learn if there's an increase of incidents in one specific region, or if one specific company has more cases than other companies. So maybe they are suffering something different, or the region is suffering some newest strain increasing in that specific region.
So when you're monitoring it on a weekly basis, I assume that you're learning an awful lot about this disease. But what specifically are you seeing? Are there any surprise trends with PRRS?
Well, one of the last questions that we are trying to solve is why there are summer breaks. So this is something that in the past, Steve Toussignan, who published that, said that this is a repeatable pattern, and it's true, it's really true. It's increasing always in the winter, probably for the weather conditions, due to the weather conditions. But also we are seeing every year a number of summer outbreaks, and we don't know what are causing those. So this is a question that we are getting from the producers, and this is a question that we are trying to answer in the future.
And do you think it's really a case of you seeing more PRRS in summer, or have the diagnostics just become that aggressive and frequent where you're just picking up more of the PRRS that was there all along?
So diagnostics, I think it's improving. However, the vets are the same, and they realize when they have an outbreak, and then we are having some outbreaks that with farms that they never had an outbreak, or they were completely negative. So I think there's some cases of PRRS in the summer, but we need to narrow that down and see what is going on there.
And where there's PRRS, there's usually other diseases, other secondary infections. What sort of patterns are you seeing?
Well, we're not tracking, unfortunately, all the diseases, because that could be a lot of work to do. The other disease that we are tracking is PD.
PED.
Yes, and we're seeing also a repeatable pattern, and we're seeing like a consistent seasonal pattern as well.
And what specifically are you seeing there? I mean, it tends to be more of a winter disease, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Like I think, most of the viruses, not all of them, but tend to be during the winter. The cold keeps them alive somehow. So we're seeing that probably there's more transmission with PED.
And what about PED in other seasons? Is it possible for it to rear its ugly head in spring or summer, for example.
We have seen that, but maybe not at the extent that we are seeing PRRS.
So are we any closer to having real-time testing for PRRS?
Real time, that is an amazing word that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
I think we're getting closer. We're getting closer every time, but it's going to be challenging.
Now, PRRS is a complex subject. We've learned a lot about it over the past 20, 25 years, but in your mind, what are the things that we still need to know? What mysteries do we need to unlock about PRRS?
That is the $1 million question. So we need to learn more about where is hiding in the farm, where is hiding outside the farm, because we are completely lost. We have met with different veterinarians that they are performing outbreak investigation after an outbreak in a sow farm, and we cannot find that smoking gun. So I think we need to dig more into that, learn more about that. And I think we are improving in our diagnostics, so that could help us to unravel that point.
You mentioned PED earlier, but what lessons from your work in monitoring PRRS and the prevalence of the disease and the patterns of the disease, what lessons have we learned, and how can we apply those to other viruses or maybe even bacterial diseases?
Well, first of all, because this is a collaborative effort, I would say that collaboration is the first lesson. And it's good, is sharing the data, and everybody is learning about it. And then we have the opportunity also to meet with different producers, different vets, and they share their personal experience. And I think that is to me, the very important lesson, that we can get all together in one room, discuss about any topic, and they are really open to discuss about it, and they don't restrict the information. And to me, that is a valuable tool.
And when you go to a meeting like the Lehman conference where you presented yesterday, what do you get out of a conference such as Lehman?
Personally, what I get from this conference, attending some other presenters or people research, is creativity. Because sometimes I'm there in the public just listening, and then you start asking yourself questions about what the other people are presenting. And then I think this is a good opportunity to review things and then have your own ideas about different projects that you can move forward.
Now, I mentioned at the top of our discussion you had the privilege of working with Bob Morrison. A very nice tribute to Bob yesterday at the conference. But you had a chance to work with him directly. Tell us something we don't know about Bob Morrison.
Well, Bob was a very open person, so I don't think that I can tell anything that has not been shared. So the National Hog Farmer, I think they did a great job in that interview with Bob Morrison when he got the Pork Masters Award. And I think Bob was very open. He was very friendly, and he had always the door of his office open for all of us. And I think we had lots of fun. So as I was commenting before, so for example, he was the one who interviewed me and he offered a position after that. And then when we went out one day to dinner, he said, "You did such a lousy job in that interview."
But he hired you.
Yes, so he hired me. So probably he saw something interesting, or so that was an interesting thing. Another thing that I was commenting yesterday is we were going out to different meetings, and he was always coming with a pile of papers. So we had 3 hours of road ahead of us. So he was coming with a pile of papers, and then after we left Minneapolis and grabbed a cup of coffee, he started a meeting, a 3-hour meeting, and we were always discussing whatever had in his mind. So we discussed proposals, we discussed emails, we discussed meetings, we discussed different types of things. But then in the way back, because we were run out of papers. Then he was saying, so, what did you learn about this meeting? Tell me 3 things that you learned about this meeting. And then he started asking the different people that were in the car. But he was not answering that question himself. And then, because we were asking him, so what did you learn, Bob? And he was saying, well, damn it, you have said all the answers, all the interesting things that we had at this meeting. And then we were making fun. And he was trying to change the topic, not to answer that question, but we were pushing forward. So at the end, he had to make up something.
Yeah.
So I think he was very open in that sense, very open guy, very good guy, friendly. And I would highlight this humbleness, which was, I think, the most impressive thing in a person of that position.
Well, I know he was always thinking about pigs, and always great at communicating the information, but clearly had a gift of working with people, and you were blessed to be one of them.
Yeah.
Excellent. We've been talking to Carlos Vilalta. He is with the Department of Vet Population Medicine at the University of Minnesota. Carlos, again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.